and today we're going to show you how to quickly set up a G2 dev kit and write your first program. Here we have the G2 dev kit, and we're going to plug the cables in. We'll start with the Ethernet cable. It goes in this connector marked Ethernet, and you just plug it in. Next we'll connect the debug connector. It's a USB connector, and it goes in the connector marked debug. We'll plug the USB cable into the hub, and then we'll use the Cat5 coupler to connect the Ethernet cable. Now we're connected to the network. And then the last thing is the power cord. It goes into the barrel connector on the development kit. And now you'll see the development kit power up. So this is the demo that comes preloaded in the dev kit. If you have a capacitive display module, you can just slide your finger nice and easily like that. For resistive, you'll use the push buttons up and down. Once you get to a demo that you want to run, you just press on it. In this case, it's a speedometer with a slider linked to the speedometer. So if you move the slider up and down, the speedometer value changes. We have other demos like a coffee brewing demo, where you can pick the roast you want and then brew a cup of coffee. These show off some of the other options that the display module will do. We have a dial demo. In this case, you can set circular sliders. Okay, next we're going to show you how to quickly write your own app and download it to the module.
We're going to get started with the dev kit by copying some files from the DVD. On my desktop, I have a folder called G2 Dev Kit that I'm going to put the files into, and I have another folder called G2 DVD that's a copy of the DVD. Open up your DVD and go into the Tools for Windows Users folder. In there you'll see a folder for G2 Link and Samples. Copy those two folders into your desktop project folder. G2 Link is a utility that we provide that downloads your application to the display module. Samples is a collection of sample projects. Go into G2 Link and click on g2link.exe. The first thing you'll notice is that you are not connected to your display module, and there is no IP address shown in the IP address box. Click on the Select Serial Port button and pick the COM port that's connected to the debug port on your display module. On my system, it's COM4. Then pick Apply and Close. When G2 Link makes the connection to the display module, you'll see the message change to Logged In, and you'll see the IP address that your display module has received from the DHCP server on your network. When you get to this point, you know that the display module and your system are connected and talking properly. The next thing we're going to do is write our first project for the application. We'll go back up to the Samples folder, and in that folder we're going to make a copy of Empty Project. Empty Project is a template that we provide that you can use to start new projects. And we're going to rename this project to First Project. Go into First Project, and you want to change the name of the QML project file also. So again, we're going to call this First Project.qml project. At this point, if you double click on the QML project file, it will start Qt Creator. Once Qt Creator starts, you'll see a file list, and the file mainview.qml is your main source file. You double-click on that, and you'll see that it's populated with a rectangle that has a width and a height. If you go into design mode, you can start adding GUI items to your project. You'll see a canvas the size of the screen, and in the library, if you scroll down to the Reach components, you can select all the components that we add. First thing we're going to add is a speedometer. Just click and hold and drag it onto your canvas. You can use the Qt alignment tools as you're placing items. The next thing we're going to add is an image button. So click and drag that. And we're going to add another image button. Again, using the alignment tools as necessary. And the last thing we'll add is an LED. Now that we have the items added to our screen, we're going to change the labels and names to make them meaningful. We'll click on the first button and change the text to Start. We'll click on the second button and change its text to Stop. We'll click on the LED and change its label to Oil. And our GUI is set up now. If we go back to edit mode, you can see that Qt Creator has added items in our source code for the speedometer, the two buttons, and the LED. At this point in time, we need to set the speedometer and oil LED up to accept messages from the system. To do this, you give it an object name, and this can be anything meaningful to your application. In this case, we're going to call the speedometer speed, and we're going to call the LED oil. Now for items that are going to send messages to your application, you have to add a call to a function that we provide. So in the case of the image buttons, we're going to connect to onButton press, and then we're going to call the function connection.sendMessage, and we're going to pass it a string, and this again can be anything meaningful to your application, but it has to have the format object equals value. So in this case, the object we'll call it start button equals, and then we'll give it a value of 1. And then we need to do the same thing for the stop button. In this case, though, we'll use the object of stop button. Now again, the strings in here can be anything meaningful to your application. They just have to have the format of object equals value. At this point, we've added the minimum code we need to show the application working. So we're going to do a File, Save All, and then we're going to go back to G2Link to download the application to the module. If you click on Publish and Run, and then click on Browse, and then browse to the folder that has your project. In this case, it's G2 DevKit Samples First Project. You need to browse to the folder that contains your QML project file. Click OK, and then click Go, and G2Link will start downloading the project. You'll see the summary of its actions. The first thing it's doing is deleting the existing project, and then it will download the new project. Once G2Link has finished downloading, it will start your application. At this point in time, we're going to bring up a terminal emulator window that's connected to the UART port on your dev kit. The terminal emulator is set up for 115.2 baud and 8 bits per character. When I press a button on the dev kit, you'll see the message start button equals 1 come out in the terminal emulator. Likewise, if I press stop, it will send out a stop button message. You can also send messages to the dev kit to turn the oil LED on or off, or set the speedometer value. In this case, I'll use oil.on equals true, and that will turn the oil LED on. Oil.on equals false will turn it off. Likewise, with the speedometer, you can send it a speed, because that's the object name we gave it, .value, and we'll give it a value of, say, 100. And then we can turn it down again, say 20. So that's a real quick introduction on how to set up your first project and download it to the display module and prove you have communication between your system and the display module. So the last thing we're going to show you is how to restore the demo that came on the dev kit when it was shipped from the factory. Go back to G2 Link and click on Publish and Run. Click on Browse, and then browse over to the DVD, and then the Tools for Windows users, and the Demo Backup folder, and then the Source folder. In this folder you'll see several other folders, and this is also where the QML project file lives. Click OK, and then click Go. Now the demo is a fairly large project, so it'll take quite a while to download. So once the project has been downloaded, G2 Link will restart the QML viewer, and you can see the original demo that was on your display module. At this point in time, you're good to go for writing your own applications.
So one thing I forgot to mention was hooking up the serial port that you can use to talk to the application. We provide the RS-232 to USB adapter, and that plugs into the DB9 connector on the development kit. And on my system, that shows up as COM4. So I'll bring up my terminal emulator on COM4. Now when I press, say, the start button, I get a message on my terminal emulator saying start button equals 1. When I hit stop, I get stop button equals 1. And these are from the strings that we sent inside of the button press handler. We can also turn on the oil light using the oil underbar LED dot on equals true, and we can turn it off by the same mechanism. On equals false, and likewise we can set the value of the speedometer with the speedometer dot value property, and you set it to some number. We'll use 75. And you can see the meter bounce there. So hopefully that gets you on the road when you get your dev kit. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or send an email.